Hi guys! So over spring break, we went to Philadelphia mostly to go to the Harry Potter exhibition at the Franklin Museum, which was pretty amazing. Highly recommend it if you guys haven't been. And my husband and I have been to Philadelphia multiple times. We really like the city, and when I'm in a new place, I always like to look for cute shops. When I was younger, I always liked to make sure to hit up all of the major historic or touristic sites, but I realized that that's not really a fun vacation for my family. I don't think that we all have the patience to visit a million museums and historical sites. So we do a little bit of that, but I think what we really like to do is just hang out and go eat at nice restaurants and also go shopping. And my kids just like to play in the hotel room. So I found this gem of a stationery shop. It's called Omoi, and they are an official carrier of the Traveler's Notebook. So they have the full set of items that are offered. And I saw on their Instagram page they also have a unique stamp as an official Traveler's Notebook seller. So this is such an amazing shop. When I walked in and I saw this full wall of Traveler's Notebook supplies, I pretty much went nuts because I've never actually seen this in a store before. It's so amazing. And I told my daughter Sienna, who is also into the Traveler's Notebook, she saw my Traveler's Notebook and she really wanted one, so she made one for herself out of paper. And she was carrying it around in her purse. And then for her birthday, I got her her own passport-sized Traveler's Notebook. So I told her, you know what, you can just pick out anything you want in this section, whatever you want, because we never see this. It was just so amazing. So yeah, we were just going nuts here. They had this section of B-sides and rarities that I've never really seen before, and I guess they're referring to on the old records. I mean, that was before my time too. I guess on the other side of the record, there are these experimental songs that weren't really meant to be hits, but they were just like kind of a bonus on the record that you bought. So the B-side Traveler's Notebook items are sort of experimental things that they don't expect to be their main sellers, but they're just kind of fun, playful items. So they had a lot of those. And this store just had a ton of Japanese stationery. This thing was really cool. You can keep all of your old Traveler's Notebooks that have been used in this binder. So it wasn't just Japanese stationery items. They basically had a really nicely curated set of stationery from all over the world. Everything was really high quality. And so here are some of the B-side items. Like one of the items was a sticker book that you can just insert into your Traveler's Notebook, which I thought was so fun. And they also had like perforated notebook paper so you could just tear out the sheets. I haven't really looked at these kinds of paper items for a really long time. I think when I got married, I was looking at letterpress invitations, but they were way too expensive. I think these are risograph prints, but I'm not sure. And I just thought these were so fun to look at. So, fun fact, when I got married, I ended up buying one of those Japanese print goko machines, or goko. I think they're now out of production. And after I went and looked at all this stuff, I was wondering if I still had it, but I have no idea where it is. I think we probably got rid of it. Hey guys, I just wanted to take a minute and thank the sponsor of today's video, which is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for anyone who wants to learn a new skill and explore their creativity. If you have a specific skill that you're trying to learn, Skillshare is the perfect place to start. From photography to illustration to graphic design, freelancing, and more, you can find classes that will match your goals and interests. So I've been talking about making stickers forever, and right now I use Adobe Photoshop for all my drawing, but I've been wanting to start using my iPad. So I've been recently taking this class on how to make stickers using Procreate with Marlena Larson, and She basically teaches you how to use Procreate to make stickers for your planner using just your doodles. So if you guys are interested in learning how to do that or something similar, then I definitely recommend checking out Skillshare. The first 1,000 people to use the link in the description box below or my code will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. One of the things I really like about browsing through these little independent stationery shops is that they often carry artwork from artists that you might not discover otherwise. So I went up and looked up that person, Madeline Conner, on Instagram and saw that she had some really cool art, so now I follow her. I watched this video while editing it. I went and looked up some classes on risograph printing because I just love these prints. Everything is so bright and pretty. When I was younger, I really used to gravitate towards big cities. I don't know if it's because I grew up in a suburb of Los Angeles and the grass always seems greener on the other side, but for me, New York seemed like, the center of the world, and it seemed like where I wanted to be in Manhattan. I visited New York in high school. When I was in Model United Nations, we had a conference there, and it was the first trip I took away from my parents on my own with my school friends, and it just left such a strong impression on me. And I knew that I wanted to live there someday. And I've always sort of gravitated towards big cities just because there's a lot to do. I mean, you have cultural centers and lots of opportunity and museums and cute cafes and art galleries, all these things that you don't really have when you live in the suburbs. So I always wanted to live in a major city, and after I graduated, I did. I lived in New York for quite a few years. But eventually I got married and I moved in with my husband, who was already living in the suburbs of a different city, and we got a house, and so that was my home. And I didn't have any kids at the time. I was working in the major city that I lived near, and I didn't really like living in the suburbs. I felt like all of the action was in the big city and I wanted to live there again, but I didn't. My husband was the complete opposite though. He loved living in the suburbs because he had grown up in a city and he felt like it was dirty. There are too many people there. The parking spaces are too small and you always have to pay a lot for parking. There's nowhere to park, and he just felt like it was not the place where he wanted to live. And so when I would drag him there on the weekends, he would always complain. And I remember when I was living in New York, he didn't like coming to visit me. Even though we always ate at nice restaurants, we did fun things like go to the opera and go to see shows, and there's just so much to do. But he really didn't like living in the city. He didn't like being in the city. I realized that I've changed because we were driving around my neighborhood. We now live in the suburbs of a major city, and I realized that I really like it. I really like my current place. I don't want to live in the city anymore. I don't like being around lots of people. I don't know if it's because of the pandemic, but I just don't like being in crowds. And I feel like every time I go to a major city, there are crazy people and it seems unsafe. I think part of that is because I'm Asian, and I've watched the news. I've seen the uptick in crimes against Asian Americans, particularly Asian American women, and so it feels very scary. And so when we went to Philadelphia, I was always looking around and trying to be alert. I would never walk around looking at my phone. because it just seems dangerous. So yeah, I'm definitely not a city person anymore. And I don't know if it's because there's just more publicity. My husband is of the opinion that there have always been crimes against Asian Americans, but just nobody paid attention to it. And I'm sure that was the case, but I just feel like there's been an uptick in hate crimes against Asians. So I feel very cautious about going to big cities, and I like being in my neighborhood, which is very diverse and spacious. Even though we don't have cool shops like this, the world has changed, so now you can buy anything online. Although it is really cool to be able to come to places like this and see everything in person. I mean, I must have spent an hour in the store at least just looking at every single thing. And so it's fun to go in person, but you can also buy things online. So, living in the suburbs is not so bad, and actually I prefer it now. Another thing that used to annoy me was that you couldn't really get good food in the suburbs. There were mostly just chain stores. But after the pandemic, I realized that we can make a lot of stuff at home. Like, we recently got an espresso machine, so I don't have to go anywhere for good coffee. A lot of times when I go to Starbucks, well, I went to Starbucks recently and I got an oat milk latte, and I was just so unhappy with it because I have made better espresso at home because I can get high quality coffee beans shipped to my house from really good coffee shops, and it's far superior to Starbucks. So I guess I realized that I don't have to be in a big city to have all of these little luxuries and a lot of the benefits that cities provide. And we live close enough to a big city that we can go when we want to. Anyway, let me know in the comments below if you guys prefer living in the city or in the suburb. And also if the pandemic has affected your feelings about living in a big city. And if you're Asian, do you feel safe in places like New York? I think I would feel physically unsafe going there. So that has played a big role in my comfort level with big cities versus suburbs. And, in the suburbs, you can drive around in your car and you're pretty well protected, and it just feels safer. So I lived in New York maybe from 2004 until 2010. And when I was living there, I felt really safe. I didn't feel scared to walk out at night by myself. Sometimes in the evening when it was dark, I would go running around Washington Square Park in the dark by myself, and I would just run around in circles. And it's right in the middle of Greenwich Village. It's such a busy place. Even in the evening, there are lots of people out and about, so I didn't feel unsafe at all. And my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, would always be so concerned about me, and he would tell me to be careful. And he thought New York was dangerous, but I didn't feel that way at all. And I don't know if things have changed because, or if I was just unaware of things, because back then I didn't really read the news much. But I'm finding now that I get older, I tend to follow the news more closely. And I don't know if it's just me, but there's just been a huge uptick in crimes in New York, and the city seems really unsafe now. And I remember hearing that back in the 80s and early 90s, New York was really an unsafe city. But when I lived there, things had changed and it didn't feel unsafe at all. But now I feel like crime is on the rise again, and I don't know if it's just my perception of it because I don't live there, or if it's actually becoming unsafe. So I've been wanting to take my kids to New York because, I want to take them to see the Nutcracker Ballet, or to some cute cafes, to go shopping. I want them to have the New York experience, and I want it to be a place where we can go and watch a musical or some kind of show every once in a while. go out and eat at some nice restaurants and cafes and go shopping and just hang out. And so I was definitely planning on taking them when we got back to the States, but then COVID was on the rise, so we put it off and we haven't gone. And then I started hearing about, shootings on the subway and hate crimes against Asian women and people being pushed out onto the train tracks. And so I thought, okay, we're not taking the subway if we go to New York. And we're just gonna take like cabs and Ubers. But I've kind of put it off because it just seems like a dangerous place to be. So I'm interested to hear if you guys live in New York, if you feel okay walking around on the streets. How is it really? Maybe my perception of New York is a little distorted because of the news, and maybe it's fine to go there. But I don't know. I've heard about, people just attacking Asians on the street, and it's really scary. I mean, I don't want to take public transportation anymore in the city where I live because there are crazy people out there, and a lot of people are hating on Asians all over the country. So I'm definitely going to be driving when I have to go back into the office. There's no way I'm getting on public transportation unless I absolutely have to, but I don't think I have to. So I'm just going to pay for parking and drive my car, and hopefully nobody will attack me in the parking garage. And I will definitely have my pepper spray out. It sounds crazy, and it's so sad that it's come to this. I really hope that some of these hate crimes against Asians start to I hope that they stop. So on a lighter note, I was just looking through those stickers and I noticed that they had this brand called Mindwave, and that's a brand that I often see in the Inku Crate boxes. So I really enjoy getting those. If you guys are interested in that, I do have some videos on it, like unboxing it every month on my channel, and also a discount code. So this is one of my favorite washi tape cutters by Kokuyo. It cuts such a clean and straight line, and it's really easy to use. So it's probably my favorite washi tape cutter that I've ever used. So the way that they have these stickers laid out is kind of hard to look at because they're not just all laid out in front of you. You have to kind of dig, but I think it kind of makes it more fun to, look through boxes like that, because it makes it feel like you're treasure hunting, and maybe you'll find a really good pack of stickers or some kind of little treasure. So the calendar in my traveler's notebook is a blank calendar, and you have to fill in the month and the days of the week, and you can just tailor it to each month. And it's kind of nice because you don't have to be bound to the month that you purchase it, and you can just start in the middle of the year if you want. But the downside is it's kind of a lot of work to write in the days. So I got one of these stamps, and this one is by Midori, which I think is the same company that makes the traveler's notebook. And so you can just stamp in the days of the week. And I might have to go back and get the monthly stamp because I really like the days of the week stamp. The size is actually perfect for my calendar, and I like not having to write in the days on my own. I did see a lot of things in this store that I already have, like this Kadokeshi corner eraser, and also this car that picks up little eraser shavings. I don't really use this, but I think this is one of my favorite Japanese stationery items of all time just because it's so cute. I have a purple one. And then there are all these lead pencils. I haven't seen this Le Pen brand. I don't think it's a Japanese brand. And then they have all those mini staplers. I think that's from the Kokuyo line. So they definitely had all the staples, all of the the main important items that you need in your Japanese stationery collection. And then here are some more stamps. I love stamps. These ones were really pricey, but maybe I'll go back and get these another time. They were also by the Midori company, and I think they use an oil-based ink, which is something that's slightly waterproof. So when you're writing like your kid's name on the back of their tag of their jacket, you use oil-based ink. I just remember that from when I had to label all of my daughter's kindergarten things. Here is a miniature version of that little case that you guys saw earlier. It was right below the traveler's notebooks, and I love how they make things in miniature. They're so cute. I kind of like that one better than the big ones. And then they had all these pencils here in little cups, and the way that they were displayed made me feel like they were some kind of special pencils. So here are the Blackwing pencils. I had never heard of these before, but when I looked them up, they're like ultra high quality pencils, and so I'm thinking about getting a pack. I didn't know what they were when I was at the store, so I didn't get anything, but they look really nice. And then over here they had the kids section. This area just made me want to have another baby again, because everything there was so adorable. And then here's a little bath and body section. These little cranes are for resting your chopsticks or incense sticks on, I think. And then they had these beautiful hourglass timers. I really wanted to get one, and I know Valentina did too, but it's glass and it just looks so fragile and breakable. I have a feeling it's gonna get broken in our house, so I didn't get one. But maybe if I had like a nice shelf that looked really clean and had all these plants and vases on them, I would get one of those hourglass things to display on my shelf. But I don't have anything like that. My house is like way too cluttered. But yeah, super pretty. And then over here, this was such a fun area. They had this little tea selection. I love hojicha, which is a roasted green tea, and this one was mixed with apple and cinnamon. It just seemed so yummy, so I decided to try that tea. I liked how they just had like a random mix of things, not just stationery, but also, you know, some kitchen items and bath items, kids items. And I thought this coaster is so cute. That would be perfect for like keeping your teapot on or your pot. But I had to limit myself. I mean, there were way too many things that I wanted in this store. I really do have a weakness for tea. I just love all of the tea instruments, and I love trying fancy new teas. I'm a sucker for like fancy boxes with tea in them. And actually, I'm also a big coffee fan, so I guess I just really like drinks with caffeine in them. So this area was so cute. It's just this little vignette, and this reminded me of wedding things, because when I was getting married and other people were getting married, people would set up these cute little vignettes with, you know, a suitcase and a typewriter and a place where you could submit your gift and also write something in the guest book and take a photo. I wonder if people still do that. I think there's this time in your life when everybody gets married, like all your friends get married, and so there's a period of like 2 to 3 years where you're going to weddings every month. And it's a really expensive time because you have to buy presents for everybody, but also it's a really fun time. It's fun to get dressed up for weddings. And that time in my life has passed. It's been over for many years. And actually, when I think back to my own wedding, I just cringe to think about like how much money I spent on it. I feel like weddings are such a huge scam, and like, you know, the flowers are more expensive than you would pay normally. Everything is like crazy expensive. And so when I think about, well, I paid for my own wedding. I was working at the time, and I had a job that paid very well, and I used all of that money on my wedding. And to be honest, like, I wish that I would have had a small wedding at City Hall and worn just a regular dress, not the crazy expensive dress that I purchased. And yeah, it was just so when I think about how much I spent on it, it makes me like, it makes me a little sad. That was one thing which was not worth the money. I think my husband and I could have gotten married in a much simpler setting, and I would have still been perfectly happy. Well, no, I wouldn't have been perfectly happy because I really had a lot of fun planning my wedding. But when I look back, I think it was pretty ridiculous to put all that effort into one day. And that's just the truth. Anyway, that is Omoi Zakka, and I'm going to do a haul later on, so stay tuned for that. I hope you guys enjoyed shopping at this cute little shop with me, and I'll talk to you next time. And as always, I want to give a big thank you and shout out to my Patreons and channel members. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. I really appreciate it, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.